born an athlete, you'll die an athlete. It's in your DNA.
You're an athlete. Live like an athlete so that you can be successful in life.
You're an athlete. Live like it.
ANA, America needs athletes.
There, welcome athletes into the gym closet. It is Zach and Tyler's show today.
What's up?
Amber, Pierce has an appointment, so Amber is out doing that. And we'll miss her, I'm sure. Shout out to Amber. But we got a good one today. We are all about strength season. We start strength season next week. So we are talking about strength season. We're still going to bust a myth that has to do with strength season. And we're going to talk everything about strength season. Next week, we'll probably finish up and kind of close out our agility season, our make a move season that we're currently in, and talk about championship winners and talk about the challenges, all that kind of stuff. But today we are going to concentrate and get hyped about our next season, which is our strength and numbers season. We are talking power. So in strength season, and if you're joining us online on our YouTube, please subscribe. I know Amber isn't here, so it's not nearly as pretty of a visual this time, but to see Amber next time, hit subscribe, hit that bell, so that way you can get notifications on when she will be on the podcast as well. So, but back to power. We're going to maximize power this season. So we're all about power, and so we will start. Sorry, I had to put on my producer hat for a second and figure out why I have a bunch of pop-ups that are stopping my audio. But we are going to start with the definition of power and what our emphasis is this season. So if you remember, if you were with us, if you listened to us a couple months ago, starting in November, we started our Live to Lift season. We're worried about strength and nothing more than strength. And now this season's a little bit different. We're worried about power. So power is not just strength. That's an element of it, but we are going to see the power is basically how much weight I can move how fast. So point A to point B as fast as I can, but the heavier I move something from point A to point B and the faster I move something from point A to point B, that's my power. And so to get technical with it, it's force times distance divided by time. So if I'm going to point A to point B with maximized speed, with maximized force, which means heavier weight, that's going to be a better power output. And so if you think about it in terms of lifting this season, our goal, our rep range is 6 to 8 with speed. So I'm basically saying if I can hit only 6, should I increase weight or should I lighten weight and try to get that 7 or 8 as fast as possible? What I would recommend this season, typically if we're worried just about strength, we want to add weight until we can get 6, even if it's moving slow. This season, though, we're worried about speed. So if you start feeling like you're at that 6th rep range and that 6th rep is very, very slow, now we want to implement something different. We want to potentially lighten that up, stay fast through that 6th rep, maybe into that 7th rep, and then in that rep range, that slow rep needs to be in that rep range. And so if that slow rep is 7, then we're perfect. If that slow rep is 8, then we're perfect. But if that slow rep is 6, that means we're only getting 5 fast reps. That means we want to work on power. We want to get that 6th fast rep. So that's when we need to adjust our weight. So that's the difference when it comes to analyzing the weight that you need within that rep range to hit. So in our strength side of our strength season, this season, we're working max power. We're working 5 sets. So we have two sets in the racks that we are just 2 rounds in the racks that we are just going to ignore the clock. We're going to go 5 sets of that 6 to 8 rep range. And our goal in those 5 sets, every set is to end on that either a 6th fast rep, and we can't do a 7th rep, or a fast 6th rep where we can get a slow 7th rep. That's going to be kind of where we're headed. So that's kind of the strength side of things. And the striking side of things, again, worried about power. Our power is our goal the entire season. So when we get into striking, now we're worried about our power blows. So that means we need to, instead of a quick arm action, we need to drive through the bag, not to the bag, eliciting that power through the bag, because that power output, instead of being a quick tap, our target should be at the back of the bag that we're punching all the way through, because that gets us the most power. We also have to generate that power with our hips. So all of that comes into play when we're talking about our striking side. Endurance, we have both steady state, 4 minutes up front, halftime, and then we have our 2020s. So those are going to be both steady state and hit. Then we got our agility focus, which again, we're working on training power, speed, quickness, changing body direction. So those things, how do we train that in agility? Well, that means jumping as high as we can with as much force and as much power as we can, because then our body weight is the external weight. So we can't go up in weight. So instead of putting on a vest or doing something to increase our body's weight, what we want to increase is the distance. So if I jump on a 12-inch box and I can make more power to jump on an 18-inch box, push yourself to hit that 18-inch box this season, because we're driving up with power. We're not worried about the number of reps. We're not worried about we're worried about more of the quality of reps, right? So we're not worried about the endurance side of things, where if I do an 18-inch box, I'm only going to get 5 reps. Well, that's fine. I'd rather that than doing a 12-inch box and getting 20 reps, because then that's not working power. That's working that distance that you can accomplish, and you can do a high rep range. So that's more focused on in a different season. So getting into those are kind of the 4 elements of training and how we're going to focus on power all season long. That's really the main thing. We do have a challenge, and what do we say? It's this is one hell of a challenge.
Funny.
It's and you'll know why.
You'll get it. You'll get it next week. 2 weeks actually.
Yep. So it is a fun challenge that implements power with the speed of your reps. The faster those the faster your reps are done, are going to benefit you throughout this. So I'm going to keep that a secret. So
and we put a lot of time into thinking of it actually. So
like
the complaints about the challenge this season will hurt and be a little offensive, because we put a lot of time and thought into this.
Well, and then actually, like, all of the challenges this year have been thought about.
Yeah, we put a lot of thought into these.
Each season we have a new challenge, and so for anybody of you just joining us for the first time, inside of our seasons we have a challenge that reflects the emphasis of that season. So each season we literally sat down and had a couple hour meeting, initially designing these prior to launching these challenges, right? So then each season prior to the actual season where we've done it for the first time, we analyzed what we had met about a year ago and said, do we still feel this way now that we are in the season and we're knees deep in this season? Does this match what we want? And so then we spent another half hour time frame critiquing and analyzing whether what we decided on a year ago was still relevant. And so we make some changes, we make some tweaks, we make it exactly what we want. A lot of thought goes into it. And what we want you to do is challenge yourself. The goal of all of these challenges is to see your numbers increase, your performance, your power increase in a tangible way. So the speed at which you did our last challenge, the hurdle ladder box challenge, that is an agility challenge. If your speed got better throughout the season, that means you got faster, you got better, you were working at the goal of this previous season. Same thing with this. If your results, yes. If your results improve, you are going to be more powerful. You're going to succeed in our goals for the season. So this is a tangible way to analyze what you're doing is working And so make sure that we do, really focus on these challenges and do a good job. I hate to hear people bitch about the challenges because they're so hard, blah, blah, blah. It's one day, and it's challenging yourself to get better. And if you don't have any challenges in life, guess what? You're not going to be better, period.
And the thing that I think always gets, and I feel like I harp on this constantly with the challenges, is it's so much more, at least on our end, what we want people to get out of this, what we want our athletes to get out of this, is competing with yourself, right? Like in fact, I think I'm going to go do this later. I'm going to go look and figure out how many people out of how many athletes we have that have been in a top 10 at the end of the season, because I bet out of the 240 people we have in Waukee at least, I bet 40 of them have been in a season-long top 10. Right. That's 1 out of 6, so like people, when we do these challenges, sometimes people get into their own head and they're like, well, I'm not going to be top 10, so why should I bother doing this?
Yeah.
Or I'm not going to, my time isn't going to help the team's average, so why should I do this? It's so much more than that, and the challenge winners and the season winners and all that stuff is awesome, and we love that because we want that competition between gyms. It's fun, but at the end of the day, what the challenge is, why we do the challenge is for you to see your own progress, right? Like if we're just in here and we're just working out, don't know if we're improving or not, whether it's, and same thing goes for nutrition too. There's a reason that we track weight, track body fat. If we're just going through our program, doing whatever, not really caring about if things are working or if we're making improvements or not, then as coaches, we're not doing our job.
And what's the fucking point of that?
Exactly. If you're not striving to improve, why are you doing it? So like as it's an important tool, I think, for our athletes, and it's so cool, I think, for our athletes. And I love it when people come over and look at their times after they're done and say, oh man, I shaved 4 seconds off my time in the agility challenge. I made it from a minute 20 to a minute 16. That's awesome. And seeing improvement week after week is great. But it also gives us as coaches something to look at too, and it's something where
we can analyze
things, and if it's something where, luckily so far every season we've done it, there have been substantial improvements from the first week to the last week. So we know that our program is working. If it's something where we were to look at it, and it's the exact same thing as a college strength and conditioning program, if a college strength and conditioning coach goes through and looks and weights aren't increasing, power output's not increasing, then they're doing something wrong, and they need to fix that. And that's something where, on our end, we're doing the exact same thing, and we're analyzing that, and we're saying, okay, if times, like they have been so far, are improving, then the program is working. If times don't improve, or if weights don't increase, or if whatever the goal for that season isn't improving in some level, then the program isn't working, and we need to fix it.
Right.
But so far...
The other thing that's really cool is, and I just had this conversation with a new athlete here, the seasons, and like you had mentioned, and what you touched on, and I think a broader thing about success and what you excel in as an individual, the seasons give. So you said, a top 10, it's not 10 people out of our entire thing that are getting top 10 every time. Now there are repeat people, but you said there's a big number of people that are in that top 10. And the cool thing about what I was talking about with this new athlete is I said, look, compare our seasons to like a football team, right? You have a 300-pound lineman that would excel his natural talent, and he may never run a sub 4.5 40, but he's going to be a lot stronger and a lot more powerful than this 150-pound guy that runs a 4.2.
Oh, absolutely.
And we need both of them on the team.
Right.
Same thing with our seasons. What we've seen out of top 10s in a strength season is so much. Those people oftentimes, I'd say more oftentimes than not, are completely different people than our top 10 in endurance season.
Absolutely, yeah.
And same thing with striking season and then the next strength season. And so all of these people, you have a natural either talent or a natural disposition of just with your genetics of where you're going to lie. And we are here to help you on an individual level optimize your genetics, optimize your shape in your body. And it's not going to look the same for everybody, but because we celebrate, the 300-pound linemen, we give them props when they're lifting 500 pounds. We also give our 150-pound receivers that are never going to lift 500 pounds in their life, most likely, but they can run a 4.2. We're giving them props on a certain season too. So take the season that you excel at, and this is exactly the conversation I had with him. Take the season that you excel at and push the throttle. Amplify that as much as possible. Say that you're the lineman. You better be screaming and hollering and loving a strength season, but then also take what your natural disposition is at the weakest point and work that into a better position, because that's going to improve. So and then there's a ton of stuff in the middle, right? So take your weakest. If you're a 300-pound lineman, I'm sure endurance season would be your weakest point. Strength season would be your best point, right? Amplify those two things during that season. Get hyped, really pay attention. And then also all of the other stuff in between, the agility season, the striking season, our other seasons that may need amplified, those will all push forward. But we're on one spectrum of your weakest thing that we want to get as good as possible and succeed in at a higher rate than what you naturally would do. And then we want to take what you are naturally have that gift and amplify that and celebrate that and push that to as far as you can go. So there's two kind of ends of the spectrum that you should be working on, both of them. But know that I'm going to be number one during a strength season, and I might be number 200 on the endurance season.
Right.
And that's okay, because we need both of those athletes if our team is going to succeed. And so that's kind of the conversation that I had with somebody just this week, and it was an awesome conversation. And that's how it should be during these seasons, and specifically during the challenges, is to amplify the people that might be naturally gifted at some, and some people are right in the middle, right? Some of those people are the mesomorphs that are super strong and can run a 4.2, and those people are very lucky. But that's also they should be working the entire spectrum as well. So
yeah, that's
kind of a sneak peek into our program and what the purpose of our program is. So we're going to jump into our myth, because it's going to be a shorter one today because Amber is not here to riff off of everything that we're talking about. But so let's get into our myth today.
Okay, so the myth that we are going to talk about this week is the myth that your body fat can turn into muscle and vice versa. Your muscle can turn into body fat. So it's something that I think I've heard a little bit recently. I know when I first started lifting, when I was like back in middle school, high school, it's something that I kind of thought, and again, without really any background in it, I can see why you'd think that. The reality is, these are two completely different mechanisms and tissues, and there's two completely different ways of going about putting body fat on and taking it off versus putting muscle mass on and taking it off. So your body fat is basically at its highest level just stored energy. So any sort of surplus of calories in any sense, any surplus of carbs, fats, or proteins are going to get stored as body fat. It's just stored tissue, or stored energy is all it is. And that's why when we can do a caloric deficit and you need extra energy from somewhere that you're not getting from food, readily available from food, your body has to take it from either body fat or muscle mass. So ideally, if you're eating enough protein, it's going to be taken from your body fat, your energy stores. Your muscles, the gaining muscle mass is driven by not only being in a surplus of protein, but also damaging your muscles by activity, essentially. So when we're lifting weights, and especially when we're lifting heavy, we're doing a lot of damage to your muscle fibers. The way I like to describe it is if you think of your muscle having, a bunch of little fibers, which it is, and when you're lifting weights, you're creating tons of these little microscopic tears in your muscle fibers what happens then is you need protein to come in and repair those microscopic tears that 0.1% bigger, better, faster, stronger, right? So that's where we can also get into, the nutrition side of things and talk about, if you're coming in here and you're doing a ton of damage to your muscles and working out and lifting heavy and going hard like that, which is awesome, but then you're not getting protein, it's like you're doing a ton of damage and then not giving your body the tools and the materials necessary to then repair the damage that you just did. So I think it's something where, and I think it's sometimes it's just a wording thing, I think, for some people, honestly, where it's, I was on vacation, I didn't come in and work out this week, so now I'm feeling soft because my muscles turned into fat, or just kind of things like that.
Yeah.
But just one of those things that I think I've heard some recently. Just wanted to set the record straight on that. So
yeah, and so that's an easy myth to bust because it's just simply not
right.
the way
There's really no
there's no controversy in this. It just doesn't
there's no
happen that way.
science out there. I don't think anybody that has any sort of credentials
Right.
at all.
It's not. It's definitely not a
It's not a hot
controversial
controversy.
take that doesn't happen. I think
Yeah.
but it is something that I think the perception comes from, I lost fat and I gained muscle.
Right.
And so my fat that I lost must have turned into muscle. And so what happened was the fat, because you were at a deficit, was used as energy. And because you probably increased the volume in which you were lifting weights, you gained muscle. And so you'll see this a lot of times oftentimes when you have kind of there's newbie gains. And I know we've talked about it in the past on the podcast, but newbie gains is your body's adaptation to a volume of lifting. So you do have those micro tears and you then gain muscle, and with whether it's gaining muscle fibers in that. But the thing that you do at a higher rate, if you've never lifted or if you're back from a long hiatus, is that system in which that you gain muscle happens at an exponential rate than if your body is used to that stimulus, used to that volume. Because think about it like this. If I go from 0 to lifting 3 times a week, my volume in which I'm lifting just went up by whatever, say I'm doing 12, blah, 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 by however many pounds, right? 1 million pounds a week. That means volume is the amount of weight times the amount of reps that you're doing per week. So if I lift 100 pounds one time, and that's all I did that week, it would be 100 pounds of volume that I lifted. If I did that same thing, 100 pounds 10 times, do the math, we're at 10 grand, right?
100 pounds 10 times?
Yeah. 1,000. Yeah.
1,000.
So we went from
math is not our strong suit.
Yeah, sorry. So then we did that, and then I do that for 5 sets. Now I'm at 5,000 pounds of total volume just for doing 5 sets of 10 reps at 100 pounds. I'm at 5,000 sets volume, right? So if you go from 0, let's call it, to 5,000 pounds of volume, that's going from 0 to 5,000. That's a huge increase, right? Exponential increase. If your body's used to doing the 5,000 and you go up to 6,000 pounds of volume, so say you're getting stronger and you go up to 6,000, that's only a 1,000 pounds of volume difference. So when you are new, you have a lot more stimulus happening that your body's not used to, and you're increasing that volume. If you're used to lifting a certain amount of volume, it's very hard to increase the amount of volume from then just stopping to starting, right? So that's when those newbie gains kind of wear off. And where I was getting with this, I don't know why, I don't know where I was going with this, but that's why someone in a deficit that is new can build muscle and lose fat at the same time. When you are getting to that, when you've been doing it for years and years and years, you most likely will not be gaining muscle when you're losing a lot of body fat, because your nutrition is not at a level that is adequate to do so. You can, but it's very difficult. Then same thing as you get more and more involved, But when you first start, you damn sure can lose fat and gain muscle because of the quote unquote newbie gains that we just explained. So I think that's where someone new to the gym can see both of those things happen within the first couple months and be like, oh,
my fat is turning into muscle mass. Yeah.
my fat is gone. That's A, and my muscle came here. That's B. The easy way to explain that is A turned into B.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's just not how it works. But yeah, myth busted. I like it.
Cool. Easy one.
Yep.
No controversy on that one.
Sweet. Anything else we want to add today?
I don't think so.
Awesome.
Nope.
So we are, getting into next week is our game plan or our.
Speaking of that, someone asked me
terrible
today.
with words today.
Someone next week is training camp.
Training camp.
Somebody
yes.
asked me today. They're like, "Do you guys still do that thing on Sunday before the season starts when you go over everything and you talk about the new season?" He's like, I never came to it, but I just wanted to know if you guys still do it. And I was like, well, nobody came to it, so no, we don't do it anymore.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, the game plans have since ceased, so we kind of do. This is kind of our
This
game
is our
plan
game
now.
plan
But we do have training camp week, free week starting next week. So bring your friends, bring your family, and you can train for free for the week 7th through the 12th, right? No. 7th through the 13th.
7th through the 13th, maybe?
Yes.
Monday through Saturday next week.
17th through the 13th, you can train. You have 3 team sessions that are available to you during that time. And join us for some great training and get you jump started into the season. But with that, remember, you're an athlete. Live like it.
Born an athlete, you'll die an athlete. It's in your DNA.
Live like an athlete so that you can be successful in life.
You're an athlete. Live like it.
ANA, America needs